Really not that excited for All-Star Weekend. You mentioned the dunk contest. We found out the people who were going to be in it. It was like, what? like, um, it just, I don't know. It hasn't had the same excitement, right, for a long time. I mean, we kind of had like, Zach Levine, that one, but then after
In
that,
Toronto. Get Toronto the slam dunk contest. Whether it's Vince or it happening in my city, we do it right.
yeah, but I mean, outside of that year, which I sort of feel like was an outlier, it hadn't really been that great in a number of years. Not like the way it was back in the days. And I'm gonna date myself here because I am someone who grew up watching, those contests, the classics, Dominique, Jordan, and I mean to have the top stars of the league in it, but also like they were incredible, tremendous athletes. And I know now you see the dunk from the foul line and it doesn't really look like much, but then in that moment it was like great, it was spectacular. And in general, it's just, you're not like, that used to be the thing. I think people are more excited about the 3-point contest. Maybe not this year, but in general, I think you kind of get a little bit more now into the 3-point contest than you do the dunk contest. So it's pretty disappointing. And I honestly, it's not just the dunk contest. I don't have a lot of enthusiasm about it, the All-Star game. And I don't know, like, I'm just going to say it. Maybe it's because it's in Utah. You have a lot of the stars out this year. Of course, my guy, Stephen Curry's out. Kevin Durant is out. I think it's questionable how much LeBron is going to actually play in the game. We know he's managing an injury. So you have some of the top stars that maybe we're not going to get to see, put on a show. And I don't know. I'm just not that excited about it. And I sort of think it's reflective of the season because the NBA season hasn't been that great. I'm sure for Denver fans and Boston and the Bucks. I'm sure for like
And now
those three
Phoenix.
teams. Yeah. But because trades just happened. But up to and leading before the trade deadline, it's been a pretty mid season in my opinion.
Yeah, I think part of that, I think a large part of that has to do with the parity in the league. Like bringing in the play-in. I don't know that the like if the NBA knew how well this would take, I mean, good for them because what it's created is these teams who want to make a run for it, right? Like my Raptors were what the 10 seed on the trade deadline and still became buyers, right? Because it's like, hey, we got a chance. And so the NBA has changed. Whereas at any other point in the season, if you were at any other season, I should say, if you're the 10 seed, you're looking to sell. You're looking to get rid of your guys because the chance of you getting into that top eight is very slim. But now you're like, I just need to be where I am. And so that's created more parity than ever, which is why we don't have these super teams. So I'm kind of excited because I do think the Warriors and the Heat and all those super teams broke my brain where I'm like, I like that. Like, I want to watch the most dominant team in basketball. So I'm excited to watch this Phoenix Suns team. But back to the All-Star. I love the All-Star. I love the drama of the All-Star. I love the fact that they're going to do the picks during
Yeah.
the game. I love the fact that it's not going to be behind the TV. I like enjoying things like that. Not to bring up your guy Steph here, but like when the NBA had the Steph and Aisha show promo, it was like, you know what? They could have filled that time in with an all-star pick. Like they could have done something different there, and it's great to see them do that now. And to answer your point about the dunk contest and the three-point shooting contest, the real difference there is Jason Tatum is going to be in the 3-point shootout, right? Like you have guys like Curry and Clay and KD and Kevin Love. You can go through the years in the past and see the amount of stars that do that. And for the dunk contest, you just don't have the same name weight. But I maintain my point that I think Dwayne Wade has cursed the dunk contest by stealing that win from Aaron Gordon. It's why he won't join it back again. Give it back to him. Give it back.
Give it. Look, in the original one, they should have just had co-winners. I know no one likes that, but whatever. And then, yes, Dwayne Wade definitely stole it from him. You're right. I am excited about the draft, but, Vincent Goodwill, who's going to be joining us later, he was on a couple of weeks ago with us. And he said that, like, that might be what people are most excited about, like the draft itself, but not the actual games and the events. And I think that that's problematic, like that shouldn't be what we're most excited about. But I also, back to your point about parity, because I don't know that I'm sold so much on this idea that there's like all this parity that people are saying. The records would reflect that, particularly in the West, I think. but I don't think it's real. I think you had a team like the Clippers, who their main guys were not playing a lot, Kawhi particularly. I think you've had like Stephen Curry, who's missed a third of the season, Andrew Wiggins, who was out, a large portion of the time, well, 20% of the season. I'm just not sold on parity. And now you've had like a team like the Pels that have dropped down because they've lost their guy, Zion, right? So I don't know if it's injury or what it is, but some of these records and standings, they feel fake to me. And I think, assuming once the postseason comes and people get healthy, I think we will see, like, for lack of a better phrase, the men separate themselves from the boys. But I don't know that I really believe there's parity. Not in the West, maybe in the East. I'm not sure.
You know what I think the difference is? Even when it comes to injuries, the thing is, having depth matters, right? Like, and having multiple stars matter. And yes, when the playoff comes, you're going to separate the men from the boys because superstars are still what the playoffs are all about, right? Like, you need to have, quite often we're picking the best player, right? Like, we're picking the best player in the series to go on. So you still need to have that superstar. But what changes is the depth. Do you have like the Celtics, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. Their team is deep, but how many teams go 10 deep? Not as many as possibly in the past. The Warriors, throughout their entire run, they've had some really good benches in deep teams. And to have a superstar-laden team that still has bench guys is something that happens maybe when there are 8 teams, when you don't have 10 teams going and trying to make the playoffs and you only are focusing on 8 teams. So I think the conversation about injuries also comes to guys are playing more minutes. Guys are having to play more minutes. And it's, to me, the conversation about parity is not so much in the playoffs. It's what does a regular season look like? What do these rosters look like? How deep are they? The Denver Nuggets, you talked about them having a great season, but their bench is putrid, right? And it's because teams really lack depth, because if you're a 10 seed right now, you're not giving up your best player, your second best player. You're like, why don't I keep them? Because there is a chance that I make the playoffs. And also, my owners get 2, maybe 1, possibly 2 games of additional revenue. And so they're keeping it. So, yeah, I think the parity is not so much about the playoffs, but everything in totality. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No. It definitely does. And I look, I'm looking forward to, we have like all these newly constructed teams, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going, like, I think post All-Star break is almost like when we're going to see the NBA season to begin, right? Like, I think you're going to have some players getting back. We have new teams. And so at least that's how I feel about the West. The East, like, there was this whole thing this year about like the East being the stronger conference now. And like one trade deadline.
I think they're good.
They're still good. But do you think they're stronger than the West?
Well, I think the West, I mean, if you go through it, I think there are 4 teams in the Eastern Conference that you can look at and be like, these are 4 legit good teams. In the Western Conference, of course, you got the Suns, you got the Nuggets, you have the Warriors at full strength, and the Clippers. So is that 4 teams as well? Like, do we think that the Mavericks are going to make a run in the playoffs? I don't think so. Their rim protection numbers and their defense tell you that probably not. So even looking at it, I mean, there are only 3 teams, I believe, in the NBA that are top 10 on offense and defense, and all 3 of them exist in the Eastern Conference. It's the Sixers, it's the Cavs, and it's the Celtics. So just by that fact alone, I think there are a lot of balanced teams and really, really good teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to suggest that the East is like weak now, but I think like they really had a legit argument earlier in the season for like just being the like better conference and stronger. Yeah. And now there's been a big shift. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this is going to play out. I know you are definitely more fond of Chris Paul than I may be of him. And so we'll see though what happens. I'm still not that much of a believer in the Suns. They lost a lot of their, depth on the wings and their defense. And so, someone said to me, well, Kevin Durant is a wing, or, and I'm just like, yeah, but do you expect him to be your offensive player that you need him to be and like anchor a defense? No, probably not. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm really interested to see what the Suns are going to look like. They're going to have Book. They're going to have Book coming back, but you're going to have Book coming off of injury and KD coming off of an injury. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm interested in you saying that post All-Stars when the season really begins, only because the All-Star break happens so late in the season. There's some teams that are going to have, like, what, 20 games left? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you going to get? It's a quarter of the season. And I just feel like it happens too late. I get it because you have to do it after Super Bowl. I get it. You know, the season starts earlier now, so you're putting in, like, what, 10 additional games at the start? But three-quarters of the way through the season just feels like way too much. The last 20 games feel kind of useless to me.
Yeah, and I don't, that's not my policy as a general rule. Like, I don't believe that. Yeah. I know most people feel like the NBA season starts on like Christmas. We're junkies. So the NBA season starts for us. You know, we're junkies, we're mistresses. It starts day one in October. But I think this season has just been really different than other seasons. And so I just feel like with these major trades that occurred, we know some players will be coming back. I think we're going to see, particularly in the West, you know, like things are just so jam-packed from 3 to 13. I just think you're going to see like a push because at this point teams are going to be like, all right, I don't want to be in this play-in. And so I'm just hoping we get like some better basketball that turns it around and says, okay, maybe this season wasn't all mid, you know, maybe that's just some wishful thinking on my part. All right. Well, look, we have a guest waiting and we don't want to keep him waiting. So let's take a break and we'll be right back. Don't leave us, guys.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.